Hey everyone, it's Owen here from OTech, and today I'll show you guys an update to my graphics card collection, which is that I got these two graphics cards. Now this is the Radeon HD 4890 and the GTX 285. Both of these are unique in that these are a refresh of the highest end product in their time. So the 4890 is the refresh of the 4870 and the GTX 285 is the refresh of the GTX 280. And this is what it is, a refresh. It's not actually a brand new, very new iteration of a new chip. It's just a refresh of the previous chip that was the highest end one, and they just made it a little bit faster, which is what happened on here and here. So first, both of these are quite good condition. They're pretty much in mint condition, especially like this one is basically brand new. There's no dust at all, except for the sticker. You can see that the GTX 285 has a slight bulge on the sticker. Not sure why is that. It probably is because, I'm pretty sure this thing has been used for a while, so might be because it got hot, or just because the sticker is old. Who knows? But still pretty good condition. And also the HD 4890 is also in pretty good condition, although this one has been used by the person, although not very much it seems, because you can see that the blower fan is actually pretty clean. There's just a small hint of light coating of dust on the fan blades, but otherwise it's very nice condition, still super clean. And yeah, you can see that even the PCB is still super shiny. All of my cards that I buy have to be really nice, because I don't want to collect crappy, dusty and broken cards. I want ones that work perfectly and are in mint condition, which are what these are. As you can see, even the bracket on the 285 is also still in perfect condition, and so is the side and the back as well. It's still super shiny, great condition, both of these cards. I'm glad to find these. I'm super lucky because I bought these for super cheap as well. My budget for buying old graphics cards is about $30 to $40. That's what I aim for. I got this one for $32 and this one for $34, I think. So yeah, pretty cheap. I got these pretty good deal. Because I somehow managed to find them when they're pretty cheap. So yeah, I'm gonna say I'm pretty lucky, because I really like the design of the 4890 and also the 285 as well. And yeah, it's pretty good extra card for my collection. So let's talk about the 4890 first. So this thing is this was basically AMD's best effort against Nvidia on the 4000 series vs 200 series cards. And when that time was when these cards are the latest ones, AMD was actually losing to the 285. So this one is actually competing with the GTX 275 instead of the 285, because the GTX 285 is actually still slightly faster than this one. Even though AMD has cranked up the clocks to a ridiculously high 850 megahertz, at least that's ridiculously high compared to the 4870, which is in the low 700 megahertz range. This is already near 900. And overclocked cards in this generation on the 4890 have even reached 900 megahertz. And in fact, on this card, I have actually tried it, and it actually overclocks to 1 gigahertz, no problem. And it's only limited by the AMD overdrive clock speed limits, so yeah, at 1 gigahertz it's actually faster than this GTX 285. So that's quite interesting that, yeah, the 4890 is actually faster than 285 once you overclocked it. And I'm talking about even the 285 being also overclocked. And yeah, so that's pretty insane. This card is actually still pretty fast. You can actually still play some games. I tried some Rocket League because it's DX9, and it plays perfectly. I can actually play some competitive games because the FPS is quite high. It's just that I can't use my 144 Hz monitor because it doesn't support 144 Hz output, at least not through HDMI with an adapter. So that's a bummer. But yeah, the card itself, the cooler is still with AMD's old style, which is semi-transparent red plastic shroud and also red fan, of course, and their old red PCB. And it even has some kind of a red base plate, which is pretty cool. You don't see that anymore. And it has two 6-pin connectors for power, because this was quite power hungry. It still is by today's standard, although not as much as today's highest end cards, of course. And because this one is a rear exhaust blower fan design, it does have like a whole slot dedicated for exhaust, and the bottom slot has dual DVI and one S-video port. Back when S-video was actually still used. And this card has the specs for it it has like a 900 or so million transistor chip, which is the AMD 4890 RV 790 chip, and this thing has 800 stream processors and also a 256 GDDR5 memory bus, which is quite advanced back in the day. This is pretty much one of the first cards that has GDDR5, and especially on the highest end card, like on the flagship card, this is the first flagship card that has GDDR5. Because back then, this GTX 285 was still on GDDR3, although it does have a much wider 512-bit memory bus. But yeah, I think that's about it for this 4890. You'll just have to see when I make a video comparing all of my old graphics card to see the performance and also overclocking and stuff of this thing. But yeah, quite a nice looking card. Pretty nice addition to my collection. I really like it. So yeah, and especially because this old card, like most older cards from AMD, it does have software voltage control. Well, not like the newer cards doesn't have them, because even AMD's Vega and Polaris cards does still have software voltage control, unlike Nvidia. So this does have like dedicated software voltage controllers, and I did manage to increase the voltage, which is what led me to be able to run this at 1 gigahertz, which is quite insane. It's a massive speed bump. You don't see that kind of speed increase in percentage anymore these days. So now let's take a look at the GTX 285. Now this is the PNY model, and just the same as the 4890 is the HIS model, but both of these cards are just the reference cards. These are the reference blower cards, and they just slap a sticker on it to customize it, but it's just made by Nvidia, and this one's made by AMD or ATI back then. But yeah, it's just the reference cards. So for the GTX 285, it has their old style black shroud, and also this very nice GeForce logo on the side. I actually really like the GeForce logo styling on this one, and I think that Nvidia should, I don't know, I guess, kind of use this style of GeForce logo still, because it still looks really nice in my opinion. And this thing also has like a really large metal side that's connected to the base plate, because this whole thing here is all metal. I'm guessing it's to help heat dissipation because it has some ridges, and it is connected to the base plate, so it does dissipate some heat from the memory modules, which, if you can kind of see from the back here, there's quite a lot of those memory modules, because this is a 512-bit memory bus, so you need 16 GDDR3 chips to have it work at all. And it does have it, and it's only 1 gigabyte even though there's so many chips. Same with the 4890, it's only 1 gigabyte, and back then 1 gigabyte was plenty. Now for this card, it has the Nvidia GT200B Tesla V2.0 architecture chip. It's a 1.4 billion transistor chip, so a much larger chip than that one. So it's much more complicated and more expensive to manufacture, but the performance isn't actually that much faster. Although it is faster, but it's not quite as big of a gap that you would expect for having 400 more, million transistors. And yeah, that's what made, I think, AMD make more profit back then instead of Nvidia like right now. But yeah, Nvidia made this card, and this is, being a 512-bit memory bus card, is also one of the only, I think it is the only Nvidia card with a 512-bit memory bus. They have never done that since, because ever since this card, they've only done 384-bit memory bus maximum, because 512-bit is much more complex and more expensive to manufacture. And AMD has only even done 512-bit on the R9290 series and 390 series. They haven't done it since either. But yeah, this card also has a blower design, so you can see a full slot for the exhaust, and also 2 DVI slots and 1 S-video output. And one interesting thing that I found about this card is that it has an LED power indicator, which is quite interesting to me because I don't see that anymore, like an LED power indicator on graphics card, and I don't see the point of that anyways, but that's pretty cool. It does light up green when you turn it on. although the GeForce logo obviously doesn't light up because this is before the day of LED everything and RGB everything. It's just a chrome logo with a very nice shiny green GeForce logo, the GeForce claw. It does have two 6-pin connectors, and this weird connector right here that you see is the I think it's called the SPDIF input for audio, SPDIF, because back then Nvidia cards don't have an integrated audio controller. So if you want to use adapter to HDMI through the DVI, you wouldn't have audio unless you connect this to your motherboard. So that's one of the advantages ATI had back then, which is that they have an integrated audio controller, so you wouldn't need that connector to your motherboard. You can just plug in an HDMI to DVI adapter and it'll carry audio by default. So yeah, that's one of the advantages back then, because unlike now, before then ATI and Nvidia was actually neck and neck in terms of performance and technologies. Now for this card, I would like to also say that I have a little bit of modification on the PCB, because if you can see here, there's a little bit of like conductive ink that you can see that I put on top, and the reason for that is that I'm just shorting some of the solder pads to increase the voltage, because this thing uses a non-software programmable voltage controller, so it's a very dumb controller for the voltage. So if you want to increase the voltage, you have to like change the solder ordering and also like solder the pads, but instead of soldering I just use some conductive ink, and with that way I did increase the voltage, and I think I managed 760 megahertz on the core, which is quite high compared to the stock of 650 megahertz or so. So that's quite an increase in performance. But even then, what I found out is that actually the 4890 at 1 gigahertz was actually still faster than this. So I'm just thinking that I don't know if it's because I'm using modern benchmarks, or people back then didn't really test the 4890 at 1 gigahertz, because at that speed it's a beast. It's defeating the 285. You don't even need to talk about the 275, it's already beating the 285. And this thing has a much more complex chip too, so that's quite amazing from AMD, or ATI at least back then. I hope that ATI, or now Radeon AMD, can make a comeback like that again and make it and make an actual competitive high-end GPU, unlike Vega, which basically isn't very competitive with the 1080 and 1070 series. But yeah, these two cards are quite interesting, and I found them in very nice mint conditions. I really like them. It's just a nice addition to my collection, and I'll definitely test out all of my old graphics card on some games and also some benchmarks and make a video of them about overclocking it and stuff like that. So look forward to that. Not sure when I can do that, because that'll take some time to test out each and every card, but I will definitely end up doing that. But for now, that's it for this update on my GPU collection, graphics card collection, the HD 4890 and the GTX 285. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and if you do, please leave a like and please click subscribe to see more of my future videos.